Hello everyone, I'm Lindsay from Happy Hour Stitches, and I'm so excited you're joining me today as we make scrunchies. Now, this is an accessory that never seems to go out of style, and they are so easy to make. So, let's get sewing our scrunchies. First, let's gather our materials. So you will need one 3.5 by 24-inch piece of fabric. Now this size is for like an adult scrunchie or if you have thicker hair. If you're making it for a child or you have thinner hair, you can do a 3.5 by 20-inch piece of fabric. You will need elastic. I have 1/4 inch with elastic here, but you can do 3/8 inch. If you're making the adult size, you'll need to cut a 7-inch piece. If you're making the child size, you'll cut a 6-inch piece. Then you'll need at least 2 safety pins, basting pins, and then some normal pins. So let's start sewing. First, we're going to take our piece of fabric. We're going to fold it in half and give it a nice press. Now we're going to take this to our sewing machine and sew all the way down. Okay, now we are going to sew along the open edge, starting about 2 inches away from the edge. We're just going to use a 1/4 inch seam. You want to choose a thread color that matches your fabric. I am using a black though, so you can see my stitches. We are going to backstitch at the beginning so that our stitches hold tight. Now when we get to the end, we're going to stop about 2 inches from the end. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm just eyeballing it here, and we're going to backstitch again. Now that we have our tube sewn, we are going to turn it right side out. So there are tools that help you turn tubes right side out. I'm just going to use a basting pin, a safety pin. And it takes a little work, but it's easy. So you'll just pin one end, and then you're gonna just push that pin back through, and you just kind of thread it through, hold on to the pin, and you're just gonna kind of pull the fabric. And then you're just gonna work it through the entire tube until it's right side out. Okay, then you're just gonna take off that safety pin. Okay, and you're gonna lay your tube out with the seam down, and then you're gonna fold it in half so these short ends meet. Now we left this 2-inch opening so that we could join these seams easily. So you're gonna just put things right sides together. Because it's a tube, you might have to work it under your machine a little bit. So sew a little bit, kind of work it, keep sewing. But we're gonna just sew this seam right sides together. Okay, I have the tube under my machine. We're gonna sew these right sides together. We're also gonna take a back stitch at the beginning and end of the seam to hold things in place. When you need to, stop with your needle down and just reposition, readjust so you get a smooth seam. There we go. Once we have this seam sewn together, you can see how this becomes a finished tube. Now we need to add our elastic. So I am making the adult size scrunchie, so I have a 7-inch piece. If you're making child size, you'll have a 6-inch piece. And we have to thread it through this tube. So we're gonna take our trusty safety pins again. We're gonna go through one end and close it. And then we're also gonna go through the other end. And we're actually just gonna pin it in place on one side of the opening. So this is just going to hold one end in place while we thread the other end through. So just like we did before, push your safety pin through, hold on to it, and then pull the fabric. And you're gonna start seeing some scrunches in the fabric as we get farther along in the tube. You can see our scrunchie is starting to take shape. Okay, we're out the other side. We're just gonna give it a nice little pull so we have it. Okay, now we're going to remove our safety pins. Make sure you're holding the ends. And now we need to sew that elastic together. So I'm just gonna put, you can pull it. Okay, I'm gonna overlap the ends, I don't know, about 1/2 inch here. And then I'm gonna take a pin and just hold it in place while I bring this over to my machine. Okay, so now we are just going to stitch through this overlap to hold the elastic together. And I have found this to be the hardest part of scrunchie making. So I pull the fabric away as much as I can to give myself room for stitching. Then I put the presser foot down on the overlap, which is a little hard because this elastic is very skinny. Okay, make sure it's lying flat by the overlap. Okay, when I have the presser foot in place, that's when I remove the pin so I don't sew over it. And then I'm gonna go back and forth, take a few back stitches, and it will hold it in place. Okay, there we go. It's not pretty, it's not perfect. I'll trim these extra threads, but it's holding it in place, and that's the job it needs to do. Okay, it's starting to look like a scrunchie, isn't it? So we're almost done. So the elastic is inside there, and now we really just have to close this opening. So you're gonna just kind of get it as straight as possible. We're gonna turn both ends in 1/4 inch, and then we're just gonna top stitch it closed, which is why you wanna choose a thread that matches the fabric, because you are gonna see a little stitching. Remember, I'm using black so that you can see what I'm doing. So let's take it back to our machine. Okay, so I have that opening. I have turned my edges under 1/4 inch, and I'll just keep aligning those as I sew. And then I'm just gonna top stitch maybe like 1/8 inch from the very edge just to hold things in place, back stitching at the beginning and the end. And there we have it, our finished scrunchie. Now I've just cleaned up any loose threads that I've seen. And now you just kind of even out the scrunches. You know, if I had used a thread color that matched the fabric, you would barely see my stitches in this. And we're done. Look at how cute is that? Here's some more. Oh my gosh, they're so addicting to make. They're so fast. And I just wanted to show off, here's the child size. So you can tell it's a little bit smaller, but it's still just as cute. And there you have it, your scrunchies are done. Wasn't that just so fast and fun to make? I just love making these in all different kinds of fabric. They make great gifts, great accessories, so I hope you enjoy making them. Make sure you visit the video description to get the complete tutorial and measurements for both sizes of scrunchie, and you can visit the Happy Hour Stitches website for more free tutorials just like this and lots of great content and patterns. So thanks everyone for joining me for Happy Hour today.